Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening if you have joined us from overseas. Great to have you here. Welcome and thanks for taking time to join me, Megan Jones, who's ICEAA's Executive Director, and your ICEAA colleagues. We're excited to have the opportunity to connect with you and hope that today's discussion bears fruit, not only for you, but also for us. Before we move to the next slide and take our wonderful pictures, faces off of the screen so that everyone can concentrate on the content, I'd like to dedicate today's presentation, which is my second and final annual members meeting presentation, to one of my favorite rock guitar gods, Eddie Van Halen, who passed away untimely this week. And there's actually an ICEAA linkage here. I'm having a hard time remembering the specific ICEAA conference. In fact, I think it was SCIA. I think it was Denver. I got on the elevator in the conference hotel by myself, and then who gets on the elevator but Eddie Van Halen and his assistant / bodyguard. They were playing in the city that day. I knew it was him right off the bat. We were start moving up the elevator, and I finally got my nerve up to say, "Hey, Eddie, I really appreciate your guitar playing." And I told a little lie. I said, "My brother would be really upset if I didn't ask for your autograph." He says, "Sure." I realize I have neither a piece of paper or a pen. The elevator door opens. He smiles at me and says, "Well, sorry, bye." So that was my my one encounter with Eddie Van Halen, which I thought was pretty funny. He was a nice guy. He was willing to do it, but he wasn't going to go out of his way to say, "Hey, get off the elevator with me. We'll go to my room and get you a pen and some paper." So anyway, with that, we will both lose our webcams and then get into the presentation here. So, next slide, please. So the objective of today's meeting is pretty straightforward. Most of today's session is devoted to us transmitting information for your consumption. The current board is 15 months into its 24-month term, which ends 30 June of 2021. I came into this job with high expectations for myself and the board and believe we've made good progress today. That's not to say that there still isn't a lot to accomplish. Regardless of whether you volunteered time to the association in the past, I'm hoping you hear something that sparks an idea or stimulates your interest in rolling up your sleeves to contribute. Once we've run through our prepared material, we will address questions, comments that some of you have already imparted, and entertain any others you want to share real time. In the interest of the audience benefiting from all of our prepared material, I'd appreciate you holding questions and comments until the end. If you're not able to get to something that's on your mind, please reach out to Megan after the presentation. Okay, next slide. For every organization, regardless of whether it's profit motivated or not, needs a compass in the form of principles that guide its course. The next 3 slides address our vision, mission, and strategic goals. Whether you do or don't have strategic planning experience, I think it's worth emphasizing why the right vision statement is critical and represents more than words on a piece of paper or a plaque on the wall. A vision statement is the anchor point of any strategic plan. It outlines what an organization would like to ultimately achieve and gives purpose to the existence of the organization. A vision statement is a descriptive picture of a desired future state, a declaration of where you're headed. Vision statement is a long-term view of what the organization wants to be or how it wants the world in which it operates to be. That is, some idealized view of the world. A good vision statement is ambitious. A good vision statement is a memorable, and I underscore, inspirational summary that describes the reason for existence as an organization, one that will help to motivate existing members and even attract high-quality new ones. You may be wondering why we created a vision for the profession. Let me explain. Every one of us on any given day should be conscious of delivering increasing value to stakeholders who rely on our analytical products and the related advice, regardless of how important cost is to decision makers inside and outside the government. Not delivering the right value can and has led to organizational irrelevance. There are a variety of reasons why ICEAA should be doing whatever it can to help grow our profession, most notably because growth translates to opportunities for professional advancement for our members. Our mission statement defines at a high level our business objectives and approach to reach these objectives. Similar to the previous slide, I chose to underscore some of the words for emphasis' sake. Our vision and mission represent 2/3 of the compass that helps the association remain headed in the proper direction. The final third of the compass is our strategic goals that support achievement of our vision and execution of our mission. Each strategic goal has a corresponding set of objectives or actions that are not shown on this slide, but are identified in our strategic plan available via ICEAA's website. Our biennial strategic plan is reviewed and updated as required by the incoming board. See, Megan, you're so excited.
I was really excited.
With the exception of the salaried international business office staff composed of Megan, Sharon Berger, and Chelsea Torres, otherwise known as the association's engine room, a threesome deserving members' hearty thanks, ICEAA is a volunteer organization that relies on its membership to accomplish work. In recognition of this fact and my desire as president to ensure that the board had tangible products and results to show for its 2-year tenure, i.e., let's avoid starting something we can't finish, I established a discrete set of priorities to help us achieve our strategic goals. We will get to these priorities and our related progress in the next section of the presentation. However, I'd first like to do some stage setting in the form of data that helped inform creation of the priorities. I recognize that it took 7 slides to get us cost analysts to some data, but please contain your excitement because there's not a lot of data here and there's no higher math.
That may be true, Rick, but you can get excited about some killer data visualization. We have here here we go, total number of members as of September 1. Of the total, about 82% are in the US and 18% elsewhere. Then the rest of the percentages we're going to show are still against the total number of members, but we're going to go into detail for each of the groups. So the 15% shown is the total number of members. There it is. 15% shown is the total number of members that work directly for the US government. This is not counting people who work on government contracts or otherwise in sort of relation to the government, but these are people whose checks are signed by Uncle Sam. After the 18% international members and 15% US government members, we've got 67% left that we're calling US industry. Within the US government, we're split at about 12% and 3% DoD and other. I think the dark purple box may be a little small, but we did want you to be able to read it. And then with the US not government folks, we have 9% further detailed as OEM employees, and then the rest, contractors, consulting firms, products and solution companies, handful of academics, retirees, and everyone else. Getting back to the international folks, our colleagues overseas are split about 10% to 7% government, non-government. Last year, we did some calculations to determine what our possible market within the US government could be and found that there are about 1,500 total cost analysts in the US DoD and about 500 in civil agencies. So our potential for growth in the US government is pretty strong. We didn't even try to take a guess of how many analysts work for OEMs out there, but it's probably safe to say it's significantly more than 117. And our efforts to appeal to more OEMs will most certainly bear some fruit.
So here's a snapshot of the US organizations with the largest concentration of members. Consistent with the year over year. Megan, did you mention that the kind of drop over the 2 years since last year?
I meant to, but it looks like I failed to do that. So we're down about 165 members from last year.
Yeah, so consistent with that year over year drop, 13 of the 17 organizations that had the largest concentration of members in 29 dropped by the magnitude in the arrows here. We've not reached out to these, and for that matter, other organizations to understand why membership increased or decreased, but it's safe to assume that some of the decrease can be attributed to cancellation of the conference in San Antonio and the fact that registrants who signed up at the non-member rate for the conference would have received a one-year membership, which is kind of a standard practice. You register for the conference, and if you're not a member, you get a one-year membership. Outside of giving you some sense of which US organizations have the most members, this slide begs for a comment on the reason some of these organizations are on the list. The reason is leadership commitment to and/or endorsement of ICEAA membership. This is certainly evident in some of the consulting firm statistics that represent 100% or close to 100% participation for the companies, those being Technomics, Kobeck, Heron. Industry participation is helped by companies' willingness and ability to finance memberships. I'm talking specifically about consulting firms. In fact, some companies cover up to 2 professional organization memberships per employee, which is certainly in contrast to the government, which has restrictions on covering memberships. So the Air Force number that's shown does not represent 100% of the cost analysts in the Air Force. This number would not be nearly as high were it not for the vision and efforts of Rich Hartley, who was the former SES director of the Air Force Cost Analysis Agency. And he actively encouraged Air Force cost analysts to leverage what ICEAA has to offer, including certification. Similarly, by virtue of Christian Smart's commitment when he was running the Missile Defense Agency, which actually does not show up in this list because we limited this list to organizations with 10 or more members, but when Christian was running the Missile Defense Agency cost group, most of his staff were ICEAA members. Before I leave this slide, speaking of Rich Hartley, I encourage you to tune in at 4 p.m. Eastern time today for his ICEAA After Work talk, which is being sponsored by the Washington area chapter, but it's available to anyone across the globe. Megan tells me that you latecomers still have time to register, and if you go to the Megan, if you go to the ICEAA website, you can find the link to do that.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
And another thing, so before I go on about chapters, a note on this slide and the previous, if you have not identified your employer on your ICEAA profile, please log in and update that. We've added a few write-in boxes to let you add details like your parent company or the division. If you have your employer listed as a specific program or a string of letters, help us out by giving us some more general information in those text boxes, like which branch your program serves, or if you work for a contractor but want to indicate which program you work on. This will help us better classify you guys and figure out breakdowns like this. If you have trouble with the website or logging in or anything like that, just email us. So chapters, last year's big plea was to get you guys to affiliate yourselves with chapters, and boy, howdy, did you listen to that. More than 100 of you did, and we really do appreciate that. Chapter size is either up a bit or down a bit from last year, since membership, as I meant to say in the previous slide, but I am saying now, is down by about 165 people from this time last year. Shout out to DC and Central Virginia for growing by 6%, but everybody yell for Central Florida, who are up 25% from last year when they weren't even in the top 10. As it was last year too, our international membership is growing. Canada, the UK, and even the onesie-twosie countries have more members than they did this time last year. Australia is trending down a little, but they've got strong leadership down there and are planning big things, and I'm confident that will change. And I also want to pause to thank our chapter presidents for everything that they do. I have said before, and I will say to anybody who listens, that chapter presidency is the hardest volunteer job you can pick within ICEAA. Our chapter presidents are out there trying their best to bring ICEAA to the masses, drum up interest, sort of cat, shepherd, cheerleader hybrid. The world is more and more designed for people not to do anything, not join stuff, not participate. We make it so easy to like or share an update. And all of those, it was hard enough when we knew what was going on and before the world got turned upside down. All the rules we knew were out the window, and I am really looking forward to getting things trending back up and more active with our chapters as we move forward.
So certification is, an important offering of ICEAA's. It's encouraging to see the upward trend in the percentage of members who have made the investment to get certified. Many of you in the audience today are certified. Well done on passing one or both parts of the exam. If you're not certified, I urge you to prepare for attaining this professional credential, particularly if you're early in your career. Outside of the sense of accomplishment that comes with studying hard, learning, and passing the exam, your employer will value your commitment to professional development and growing your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Furthermore, if you work for a consulting firm, the credential will further your company's ability to compete for future government work that more frequently than not requires staff to possess either an ICEAA or a government DWEA certification. For those of you in the audience who work for the government, I should note it's my understanding that your organization has the ability to recognize the CCEA as an equivalent to a DWEA Level 3 cost estimating certification. Now, you as an individual can't do this yourself, but based on what I heard from a couple directors of DoD cost analysis organizations, I'm guardedly optimistic that a groundswell of staff support for CCEA equivalents would prompt that leadership to move your organization in that direction, since they, in fact, have the ability to propose that and have it happen. So, I say this because it was clear, a couple of the directors that I talked to, that they had serious questions about the value of some DWEA classes vis-a-vis, the length and associated time away from the office. In fact, one of the directors expressed the opinion that a comprehensive exam is a more meaningful indicator of knowledge, skills, and abilities than simply completing DWEA classes. Okay, Megan?
In case you guys are wondering, at the bottom, we've got a little box there to point out. So we have about 130 people take the exam every year, and our standard pass rate's about 70%. Did I skip one? No.
No, you did.
Sorry.
Yep, perfect. So everything in our strategic plan is important, and hopefully you'll follow the link and check that out. It's a relatively short document. So everything in it's important, but everything can't be the most important. As previously mentioned, I established some priorities to ensure that the board achieved tangible progress in relation to our strategic goals. This section of the presentation addresses these priorities and what we've accomplished today. So, slide identifies the 5 priorities that I established. The name of the accountable board member is shown in parentheses. My sincere thanks to those individuals for being willing and able to to own these. They're not accomplishing work on these by themselves. We'll do some shout outs in the subsequent slides on that front. The previous section of the presentation paints a pretty clear picture of the fact that there's much room for ICEAA membership growth, particularly relative to the US government and OEM membership. As indicated in the title of this slide, the theme of these priorities is delivering greater value to members and potential members. ICEAA can't expect to retain existing members or attract new members without constant attention to value. The first two priorities have a clear product orientation in the form of CBOC and the new software CBOC and the associated certification exams. The other three priorities logically translate to a combination of ICEAA products and services. The sequence of slides that follow address progress by priority since July of 2019, when the board started its current term. I'm going to handle the first three priorities, and then Megan is going to talk to progress on priorities 4 and 5. So the first bullet addresses CBOC. There are really three areas of CBOC improvement: the area of content, format, and then distribution online. The previous board decided that it was past time to not only improve CBOC content, but also move to a more modern medium, i.e. something besides PowerPoint slides that provide greater flexibility, functionality, etc. The board awarded a contract to Quebec Consulting to accomplish some of the content improvements, as well as significantly improve the format. Quebec delivered its product to ICEAA in spring 2019, and then late in 2019, after some additional work to ready the content and format, we made an online version of CBOC available to all members and are currently evaluating member feedback regarding this new non-PowerPoint medium. Feedback to date has been largely positive, but we would appreciate hearing from more of you. We're currently evaluating the best way to deliver and sell the online version. I want to thank Megan and Kelly Wutsky for their efforts. The second bullet addresses the by the way, you may also know Kelly as Kelly Scarborough. The second bullet addresses the certification exams. In July, we started offering the exam online via Medal, an online testing platform that affords members greater test-taking flexibility and ICEAA ability to exploit Medal's statistics capability regarding the exam itself. That is, statistics that should help us understand and improve effectiveness. For example, are there particular questions that test takers are getting wrong? Plus lots of other examples in terms of analysis capability. In parallel with researching and implementing the best online testing solution for our needs and budget, we've been revising existing questions as appropriate and creating new questions. Don't know if any of these folks are on the line now, but we're grateful to a group of former Air Force Institute of Technology students for contributing new questions, and welcome any of you to create new questions in exchange for recertification points, of course, should ICEAA adopt your questions. We want to give a hearty thanks to Sharon Berger in the International Business Office, who is the certification czar there. Kevin Sinkata, who is certification principal on the board, and Christian Smart for their efforts on this front.
Hear, hear.
So moving to priority number 2. As some of you are probably aware, roughly 5 years ago, elected and non-elected members of ICEAA, an organization in the Netherlands called NESMA, N-E-S-M-A, and IFPOG, International Function Point Users Group, as well as other organizations with an interest in professionalizing software cost estimating globally, initiated a collaborative effort to create a body of knowledge and a companion exam. That collaboration, which was 100% volunteer powered, produced a 16-module body of knowledge that was actually instructed in the training track of the last, is it 3 ICEAA workshops, Megan? 2 or 3?
I want to say maybe 4. I feel like we did it in Denver in 14.
Okay, so in varying states, was offered in the training track, and it was also offered during a NESMA event held in the Netherlands in October of 2019, an event that that both Megan and I attended, as did Paul Marston, who's also on the board. Subsequent to that October event, members of the current board, ICEAA board, completed a critical evaluation of those 16 modules and concluded that that body of knowledge really did not meet kind of ICEAA's standards and required major rework. It doesn't mean that there wasn't good content there. We just felt that it did not present, I put it this way, kind of the story that it needed to present for people who truly wanted to gain a certification in software cost and schedule estimating. So, without going into all the details, I'm happy to report that, we're 5 months into a development contract that we awarded on May 1st. This effort is effectively a new start development that leverages DAU's BCF 250 materials, which DAU shared with us subsequent to us signing a memorandum of understanding. It also leverages the content that's in the 16 modules that have been developed and many other sources of useful information, including but certainly not limited to GAO's recently released Agile guide. We're optimistic that the body of knowledge and companion certification exam, the latter of which will be wholly developed by volunteers with Kevin Sincata leading that effort, is going to attract new ICEAA members overseas and hopefully here in the US. If you want to learn more about the body of knowledge, please see Megan and Christian Smart's presentation at the recent ITCast event or contact Megan directly.
Quick jump. Can I just quick jump? I just want to say, as of we were just able to put that presentation on ICEAA's YouTube page, and we've linked it on the ICEAA Online /SkiBock page, so it'll be easier for you guys to find.
Excellent. So before we move to the next slide, I'd like to do a shout out here to a number of people who have been either directly involved in the development of content or heavily involved in the reviewing of the draft content that's being developed under this contracted effort, and that's Megan, Christian Smart, Kevin Sincata, Dave Brown, Eric Vandervliet, Harold von Heringen, and then members of kind of a formal review group that we established, and that folks that we approached have made a formal commitment to contribute, and that's Dan French, Diane Butler, Arlene Minkiewicz, and Sanath Rajagopal. And then certainly last but not least, Carol Deckers, who's the software SME to whom we awarded the contract. All right, so I will quickly talk priority 3, and then Megan will handle the next 2. We created 3 initiatives to foster government engagement. They're going to talk about here, right, that we've been working on. The first is U.S. Government Day. That's one day at the workshop designed especially and only for government employees. Agenda planning for this inaugural U.S. Government Day was well underway when the San Antonio workshop was canceled. I was personally working with senior leaders of defense, intelligence, and civil agency cost analysis organization to create an agenda that represented a unique opportunity for those leaders and their staffs across the government to exchange knowledge, ideas, opinions, and lessons learned on a variety of subjects. The day was to include cost leader panel discussions on strategic topics in the morning, and then, staff presentations on policy or technical topics in the afternoon. The panel sessions were to address challenges facing the cost community at large, all right? Challenges that it didn't matter whether you were defense, DHS, National Reconnaissance Organization, NASA, you name it. And, these challenges were A, workforce, that is, hiring, development, retention, succession planning, the growing millennial composition of the workforce. And, were we planning that agenda today, we would have also been including, this new normal, this perhaps extended remote work environment. The second challenge was, the all-important subject that I alluded to early in the brief, and that is the delivering the right value to the enterprise as an organization, as a community. The policy and technical presentations would include, topics like agile, improved source selection techniques, cost implication to cyber, and other types of topics. While we didn't get to do this in San Antonio, I have recently re-engaged these same leaders to determine their appetite for an abridged virtual version, something like a half day devoted to the strategic-oriented panel discussions. Initial responses from 3 leaders outside DoD are encouraging. I'm still waiting to get some feedback from a couple other folks. Should virtual U.S. Government Day come to fruition, we will evaluate how it goes and consider doing a full day at the 2021 workshop in Minneapolis. And the idea here would be if we're able to, if there's interest in doing this virtual half day, that we would try to make this happen, let's say by sometime in January, hopefully.
Another one of the conversations Rick's been having with government groups that got us talking to the Air Force, and they let us know that their active military folks were having trouble getting their membership and certification expenses reimbursed. And we decided to do something about that. So if you or a colleague are active military and want to get certified and become an ICEAA member, we're happy to extend a 50% discount on certification fees and the reduced student membership rate of $45. The professional development package that's bulleted here will be a benefit for everybody, including but especially our government employees. And I have a slide on that one in a few, so we'll save that for later. Now we have priority 4. Coincidentally, my last slide talked about members in countries outside the US, and here we are again. Priority 4, being headed by Dale Sherman from the UK, is intended to truly capitalize the I in ICEAA. The biggest and highest profile effort we've made on that front is in CBOC. CBOC was written by, reviewed by, and edited by Americans, so it's not really a surprise that it ended up with a bit of a bias. And it wasn't until our membership overseas started growing at the pace and magnitude that it has over the past few years that we realized just how skewed that bias is. Dale's compiled an international supergroup of subject matter experts that's working on country-specific modules for the UK, Canada, France, Australia, the Netherlands, to point out where and how the lessons diverge from place to place with examples that are practical to that location. Meanwhile, we're restructuring the rest of CBOC to use international language for the concepts that are in fact universal, whether it's as simple as changing an example from the cost of a fighter pilot in American dollars to the cost of 1 million donuts in simoleons. The stuff that is truly unique to US will be moved to its own module in the neighborhood with the other country-specific content. And then since all that nation-specific content will be in modules of CBOC and not in their own CBOCs, we're going to really be able to cross-reference and link between the different lessons and show where the topics change and draw comparisons and all that. And another beauty of the new online exam is that once we have those modules in place and new questions based on them, we'll be able to customize the exam to the candidate's country of origin. So for example, if there were 100 questions, about 80 of them would be on the universal topics and the other 20 would be based on that person's home country module. Priority 5.
Megan, I think, yeah, you mentioned Dale's name, you mentioned the supergroup. So I think, you know, a hearty thanks to those folks, as well as Kelly Wutzke, who's been here on the U.S. side with heavy hand in this.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you all. So priority 5 is focused on one of those other groups we identified back in the membership composition slide, in an area that we think could prove a source of a lot of new members, the original equipment manufacturers, for those who didn't know what OEM meant. These are the airplane builders, shipbuilders, the guys who actually make the stuff. Their progress on this effort is being led by Executive Vice President Bob Hunt. Bob has formed a planning team that represents a nice cross-section of the OEM employees, and we're working to get some more of them on board. Bob and the team have been cooking up an idea to hold virtual presentations that are followed by online roundtables or panel discussions and on topics that are intended to appeal to the OEM estimators. The team is building momentum and, even better yet, setting a really solid foundation for these sort of events. And I am excited and confident about our debut in January. And with number 5, those were the 5 priorities from the 2019 to 21 strategic plan that we set up in July of 2019. And then there was 2020. And needless to say, it's changed a few things. I'll get right in it. The graph shows ICEAA's revenue broken out by source. The orange is membership, yellow, purple, and other colors are some of the programs that bring in smaller amounts of revenue per year. And then there's the blue part. And so about 70% of ICEAA's revenue came from the workshop in 2019, which I believe you've heard by now. We didn't have this year, so that means we're not getting the blue part this year. The good news is we've had some very good years of cost savings paired with increased revenue that left us with a healthy amount of savings in reserve to make it through 2020 by dipping into those savings.
Hey,
so
Megan,
yes, yeah.
Megan, before we go to that, just go back to that picture for just a second. I wanted to highlight, you know, while we talked about, you know, groups where, you know, government, OEMs, international side where we, you know, we'd like to grow membership by delivering greater value. It's interesting because on the, you know, the government statistics earlier said only about 15% of our membership is government, U.S. government. But if you look at the data here, you know, the average over the last 3 years, we've had something on the order of, you know, 35% of the attendees at the conference are government. So, you know, that's a great thing. We, you know, we hope, obviously, we hope that continues and that grows. At the same time, we hope that it likewise translates into membership in some form or fashion, however it's got to happen. So, all right, Megan.
I muted myself. Okay, good news and bad news. Yes, we've built a nice fluffy cushion for situations like this, mostly in the form of interest earning CDs. We also applied for and received 3 different sources of COVID relief funds this year. Because the state and citywide travel and gathering restrictions made holding the workshop in San Antonio a literal impossibility, we were able to transfer our contract from 2020 to the next available year, which was 2023, because we usually book the workshop hotels about 2.5 years ahead, and we didn't have to pay any fees or lose any money on that. I'm going to give a bigger plug to sponsors in a few slides, but some of them have already shown their support for the 2021 workshop. This has not just been a real confidence booster for us, but those sponsorships have actually helped us with our cash flow and have kept us from using the CDs and savings that weren't mature yet. So far, the only savings we've had to use have come from matured CDs, and we haven't lost anything on that. We also laid some pretty big plans to start using some of that money in savings to develop or start new programs and benefits for the membership. Most of them were made back when pandemic was only used in zombie movies. So naturally, some of those plans are going to have to either go on hold or get spread out a bit, because that money we hope to use on them is now being used to continue to offer the benefits we do have with no disruption of the current services. And, you know, it really stinks to have to wait on our hopes and dreams, and the year certainly hasn't been the same without a workshop, but there have been a few good things that came out of it. Starting with the distance learning series. So by not having the workshop, for many of you, this meant not getting most of the continuing education points that you depend on every year for your CCEA recertification. And since the workshop was canceled after the deadline for the Best Paper Awards, and after many other of the authors for San Antonio had completed or at least started working on their presentations, there was content to be delivered and people who needed it. So we started the distance learning series as a way to give a home to orphaned presentations everywhere and give an opportunity for CCEAs to get those points that they needed. We've had a webinar just about every Wednesday since July 1st and have some more planned through the end of October, and maybe even have one for the first week in November on the way. 317 of you attended the webinars over the summer, and we'll be able to update those statistics again at the end of this month. If you missed one or more of them, you can watch all of the distance learning series webinars on ICEA's YouTube page, and of course, check out the ICEAA calendar for information on what's coming up.
By the way, I think it's great that we're getting, you know, an average of 40 people, but I'd love to see more people taking advantage of this.
Yeah, sure. The trough is there, folks. All you got to do is come drink. So we kind of touched on this before, that we have the professional development package. The workshop also provides our attendees that free year of membership that comes with a non-member rate that a lot of them depend on. We've learned that a lot of your employers won't cover your membership fees, but will cover training expenses. And without that non-member ticket to buy to get it, a lot of you couldn't have continued your membership. The QED webinars, unlike the DLS webinars, are available for ICEAA members to purchase for $25. The non-member rate of $100, like the non-member rates for the workshop, comes with a free year of ICEAA membership. You don't have to be a member to take advantage of the package. If you sign up for one of the QED webinars at the $100 rate and are already a member, we'll just extend your expiration date by another year. As of today, there are 2 webinars that can be purchased as part of the bundle: Solving for Project Risk Management, Understanding the Critical Role of Uncertainty in Project Management, and Introduction to Machine Learning for Cost Estimators. When you sign up for the bundle or just the webinar, you'll get a special link to use to watch the webinar and download the slides. And we do have another one on, sort of getting ready to start planning before the end of the year. The machine learning group wasn't really born as a result of the 2020 weirdness, but it definitely does deserve some mention. They got started back in October of 2019 and have been roaring along ever since. The machine learning group meets about every 2 or 3 months, and I think also is going to have another meeting before the end of the year. They've shared their experiences and tips, and even had something called a speed fire hose learning session, which wasn't exactly what I hoped it was going to be, but it was still pretty good. Big thanks to Karen Marikas, who's been leading the Machine Learning Working Group Steering Committee, along with Brian Anderson, Dan Harper, Adam James, Christian Smart, and Akila Wallace. And they have shown that it can be done. They wanted to have a forum to talk with other folks who were interested in machine learning, discuss and learn from each other, and they formed this group. So now that you know that it can be done, what's the next one? If you have a topic you guys have been wanting to talk with each other more about, are you willing to make another group happen? My office and I are here to host your webinars, design your graphics like that smart little robot up there, promote your meeting, whatever else you need. You just have to come up with the topic, the speakers, and the desire to do it. So even if you've only been kicking around an idea for a new working group, let me know, send me an email, and I'll do what I can to help you find other members who might want to join your steering committee and get your group moving. So with all that said,
hey,
yes,
Megan,
sir.
real quickly. I mean, I think that the machine learning working group is a great example of, one of the things that's in the strategic plan, this, creation of community of practices that, will lead to collaboration. So that, this group is directly contributing to both our technical excellence and our collaboration strategic goal. Thank you.
Okay. Until you hear otherwise, the 2021 workshop is on. We have turned some real tough situations into positives in the past 6 months, but that blue part of the budget is still a pretty big part, and we're not going to be able to go on forever without it. Rules, rumors, and like everything else changes from day to day, and my team and I are going to be working hard to stay on top of everything and make the best of what we have to work with. But if you could do us a solid and think positive and plan like it's going to happen, that would be great. The best way to do that is to get your abstract summaries in. You know the drill. It's not like the abstract to your master's thesis or a scientific article. We need 75 words to tell our review team what you want to talk about and sell them on why yours is one of the ones we should put on the schedule. Getting your presentation accepted will open up a whole bunch of opportunities to get your name out there and your work noticed. Before the workshop, you and your summary will be up on the website, and afterwards your actual presentation files will be up there along with them, just waiting to show up in somebody's Google search. It's a great way to establish yourself as an expert or an innovator to the people who you want validation from now and those who you want interest from in the future. You don't have to have your whole presentation done until the end of February. What you need to do now is come up with a good title and an eye-catching summary, and you'll have more time to spend as we move forward to turn that summary into your presentation. While it's not required, we cannot do enough to encourage you to write a narrative white paper to accompany your PowerPoint. Only those entries that have a narrative paper are considered for a best paper award, and there's really something more prestigious about having a white paper to go along with your presentation. Now, I know Rick has comments on this one, so I'll give you.
Well, I'll be really quick because I think you've hit on the key ones, but I would add this, that writing a paper is an invaluable learning experience. It's challenging. I'm finding that effective writing is becoming kind of a lost art, and this is maybe it's a forcing function here for you to practice either honing that skill or gaining that skill. So I can't urge you more strongly to bite the bullet, go the extra mile, and write the paper for that reason and the other reasons that Megan mentioned.
Goodness gracious, it is 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes left, so I'm going to really try to speed up my slides a bit. Thank you to those of you who have sponsored us already: Kovac, Price, Sysicon, Quantec, ACIT, Augur, Galarath, Technomics. If I had my way, the 2021 workshop would be even more grand and fun and rewarding than it's ever been, and so awesome that it makes up for missing this year. Our sponsors are always a huge part of that, and we're grateful you guys are still in it to win it. If your company wants to get up on the website along with them, drop me an email. One of the better selling points about the hotel we ended up choosing for Minneapolis was the size of the general session and exhibit hall room. So there's going to be more than enough room for anybody who wants to sponsor, even if we do end up with the kind of crowds that we have started to get used to. The Renaissance Minneapolis, the Depot, is about the coolest hotel I've ever seen in my life. I know that the board is tired of hearing me say it. It is built in and around a train station from the 1890s. This room on the upper left is the actual old ticket hall and waiting area, and the marble floor has like a little divot where the people waiting online forever has put it in the marble. And then these other two pictures are of that general session exhibit hall, which is actually in an old train platform. I'm going to skip the rest of the stuff because we're running short, but go to the website. It's super duper cool. Okay. Rick?
Oh, thank you, Megan. Yeah, so go ahead and click the, So ICEA's ability to achieve our 5 priorities and more broadly, the 3 strategic goals mentioned previously depend on the quantity and quality of help it gets from board members and other ICEA members who are willing and able to help. It's, it's reasonable to ask, why should I volunteer? What's in it for me? I trust that, one or more of the benefits shown here resonate.
Okay. I know, I'm sure you noticed when you guys signed up for this, we had a form for you to answer your questions. We have some of them answered here today. The ones that we were able to, that we got, I think it was before Friday when we were able writing this. So if you sent your question later than Friday, look forward to getting an email from us answering it, because we missed it.
Okay, so yeah, Megan's given me the easier ones here. I would say that hopefully the first and the third questions here have been answered. I would say relative to software CBOC, the objective is to be in a position where it's being taught and is available come May of next year. Ideally, we'll be in a position to have the certification exam there, but there might be a little lag, May being the Minneapolis conference. As far as the second question here goes, while we participated, organizationally, I spoke at the 2 or maybe 3 day workshop that the Moore's Cost Analysis Working Group had in I think it was February. There's probably some additional room for collaboration with these groups. Frankly, I'm hoping that if we pull off Government Day, that in and of itself might be stimulus for more active engagement with the government. So anyway, so I think that covers those. Megan?
Yep, 6 slides, 6 minutes. Let's do this bad boy. Contingent plans if the pandemic restricts travel. We're working hard to plan for whatever may come out between now and May. I can't say I'm comfortable predicting what the state of the world will be then. We were able to cancel the workshop this year because outside forces closed the Riverwalk tourist area where the hotel is, and there were gathering limitations put in place by the state of Texas. So without an official mandate from the city of Minneapolis, the state of Minnesota, or the United States federal government that keeps us from having the conference, we're having it. As much as we all wish it did, our opinions only matter so much. And unfortunately, we don't think people will come isn't enough to get us out of the contract penalty free like we did this year. If the rules are such that we can hold the workshop, but there's still a lot of unofficial policies in place, like employer imposed travel freezes and things like that, we'll plan virtual events over the summer to give learning opportunities to those who weren't able to come. Once again, I'm hoping for the best, and I really beg every one of you do too, not just because this will mean that the whole world's in a better place than where it's been, but missing out on what keeps ICEA's lights on for 2 years in a row could really start to show if we're not able to do 21 in the way, or at least at all. So yeah, we need this. Thanks again to those sponsors who have signed up. Yes, now smile. Next 2 questions to the slide of 1 because they're pretty close. Hi. I'd like to know what's going on in the future of UK Europe chapter and plans for international conferences, Europe, Australia, not Canada. Our sister organization in the UK is SCAF, the Society for Cost Analysis and Forecasting. They're essentially our extension in Europe. ICEA and SCAF have a great working relationship, and we cross-promote each other's events, whether on the ICEA calendar, social pages, or by email. Back before it all went down, ICEA and SCAF had been planning to do a collaborative event for right around now. Instead, the event will be online and spread across November and early December. We expect to be able to announce the schedule and details in the next week or so. So keep an eye out on your LinkedIn and for emails detailing the next SCAF ICEAA event. As far as plans for the next physical event in Europe or elsewhere, let's get on that bridge once we know we can do one in the US. Again, we do not, we're gonna have to skip any additional questions that came in during the call today. I'll send you guys an email who did, because we're really running short on time. So let me I wanna make a few plugs for a few things before we go. Sense of time has gone completely out the window for most things this year, and I'm sure, and this one sure crept up on me. The 2019 to 2021 board term ends in 9 months, so it is time to start collecting applications from those people who would like to run for the next ICEAA board. That nomination form is already up on the website and will remain there until January 15th, and there's some more nuances to the whole nomination process that you can read on the website. But if you have questions, email me or ICEAA@ICEAonline.org, and I'll be happy to put you in touch with a current board member to get their insights on the roles and their experience if that's something you'd like to do. And we also have the Association Awards. Your latest ICEAA World magazine is on its way. That is, of course, if you updated your profile to say you still want a magazine. And in it, you can read up on the winners of the 2020 Association Award process. I actually spotted one of our winners' names on the attendee list today, so read about Sam. This is another one that's got a long window before the deadline, so we hope to give some real thought to sending in a nomination this year. Rick, do you want to add more on the awards? This is
Yeah, I'd say this, look, don't wait on that, right? To write an effective nomination, a thoughtful nomination, to determine who should be nominated, you need to be thinking about it now and working on this. And you know, what could be better than to nominate a colleague or nominate a client who is deserving? I mean, it's a great way to give, and you know, I think everyone loves to receive an award. So please be thoughtful about this, and likewise, think about, you know, the nominations for the board, but be realistic. You know, if you're someone who's interested, or you think there's someone else who's interested you want to nominate, you know, you got to be realistic about ability to spend the time. It's one thing to volunteer and feel good about volunteering, but if you're not going to be able to invest the time, then you should really be thinking hard about that. So, but please think about this today, all right, and tomorrow and the day after.
And speaking of days, if you have 26 of them to write those 75 words we talked about, the summaries for your abstracts are due on November 3rd. If only there was something else happening around that time for us to kind of add a mental connection to help you remember when it's due, but you'll have to come up with one of those yourself. It is 1 o'clock. We value your time, so we're not going to take more of it than we promised. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you to those of you who are listening in the future. Rick, do you want to say a closing word or two?
No, I'll echo that. I hope it's been a productive use of your time. And although the length of our presentation might indicate otherwise, we truly do welcome your comments and observations, and encourage you to think about if and how you'd like to contribute to any of the work we discussed today, anything you might see in the strategic plan that contributes to the 3 strategic goals, technical excellence, collaboration, and relevance. So reach out to Megan, reach out to me, reach out to any board member.
Yeah. Also, anything ICEAA, don't wonder, don't bang your head against the wall. Talk to me, talk to my office. We'll put you in touch with who you need to talk to. We're here to make ICEAA yours. So I'll take the goodbye then. Thank you all for your time today. Thank you for your questions that we'll answer. Thank you for your comments that I hope to come. Be good to yourselves be good to each other. It's rough out there. So keep your chins up, smiles on, and have an awesome rest of your day.
And one final point, Megan, while this is on the screen, you know, my story about Eddie Van Halen, I can't guarantee who you might run into in the elevator at the next workshop hotel, but I mean, it's definitely not going to be Eddie Van Halen. It could be his brother. But again, yet another good reason to come to the conference. So.
And if you do run into Eddie Van Halen, you've got a lot larger problems.
Yeah, right.
We thought. Okay.
All right.
All right, everybody. Thanks again. I'm sure you guys all have 1 o'clock calls to get on, so we'll wish you luck. Thank you.